Hello, my name is Kathleen and I am a registered psychologist currently studying my master's in clinical psychology, and I have just made it to the winter semester. So yeah, this is the beginning of the new season of the blog. Someone left a really helpful comment on one of my videos recently asking about self-doubt, which I want to spend this whole video unpacking because I feel like psychology students can really relate to this and it's something important to address. Alright. Okay, so just got home. I've been running around doing lots of admin and I've still got so much to do. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by how much I have to get done, but I'm not gonna let it overwhelm me. I'm just gonna take this step by step. A couple of weeks ago, someone left a really cool comment on my channel that's really stuck with me. So Arena said, when you were starting your career journey, did you ever think that you weren't enough or that you weren't smart enough to do this? And if somehow, did you get past that? Yes, I did. Yes, I definitely felt that way. Some days I still feel that way. And I'm gonna make this whole video about like self-doubt, imposter syndrome, moving past that space. I think what's gonna be most effective is if I draw this out, which segues into a perfect excuse to show you something new and cool and exciting. So let's go check it out. So my dad kindly came over on the weekend and he put up these shelves, and I'm gonna decorate this to make it look aesthetic and like a really cool, nice aesthetic desk space. And as you can see, it's still quite messy. I've got some of the plaster has gotten onto the floor. I need to vacuum clean that, and I just need to clean this whole space up in general. But he also installed this whiteboard. I didn't think about the reflection of the window, but yeah. So when it comes to feeling like you're not good enough or doubting yourself, I think in the field of psychology, there are three things that have a huge influence on this. So the first is you. And that's stuff like your mindset, how you see yourself, the stories that go on inside your head, just everything going on inside of you that other people can't necessarily see, but you're hyper aware of. The next thing is the discipline, the field of psychology, which you spend a long time studying and working in, the field of psychology itself. And then the third factor is the people. So everyone that you encounter on this journey. So it could be your peers, your colleagues, your supervisor, your manager, all the people that are involved. You very rarely come across people that are exempt from feeling self-doubt in psychology, and there's a big reason as to why, which I will unpack more as we go through this week. I've also got work tomorrow, so I really need to clean this space up, so I'm gonna do that now. Okay, hello again. Welcome to an updated tour of my new office space. It has evolved. I've got this little nook thing going on with my own sign. I couldn't actually fill Psychologist into this space, so the student psych has to do. And then all the books that I am trying to read or use with clients, very, very slowly going through this. My backpack and like my camera and some books and paper and just admin stuff over there. But yeah, quick check-in with how things have been going. This week is so busy. Every single day feels really, really intense, but like the good kind of intense. Yesterday was just so much admin for uni and for me, like my personal life, and group supervision in the middle of the day, running around doing things. Then had some dinner with friends that night, which was really nice because I hadn't seen these friends in a long time. And then today I have literally been working all day. Anyway, let's revisit managing self-doubt or insecurities when you're studying psychology. I redrew my diagram. I hope this comes up on camera okay. I redrew it because I think I think after some reflection, I realized that you are at the center of all of this. And then you're dealing with the discipline of psychology, and you're also dealing with the people that show up, that you work with or study with. I'm going to break it down a bit more. Tonight I'm just going to focus on psychology, the discipline. My supervisor said something really interesting in supervision the other day that just got me thinking. Basically, she said, psychology operates from a deficit system. And what she meant by this was basically in psychology, we are trained to always be thinking about how we can do better. Where are we going wrong? We are constantly reflecting on how we can improve. And that's kind of cool. Like, that's actually quite a unique thing to the workplace. And something interesting that I learned when I was working in HR, I read this in a textbook, so I don't know if I'm 100% correct in saying this, but from what I remember, most workplaces or disciplines don't encourage reflective skills. They encourage people to put on their best front, to show themselves off, kind of show that they're doing an amazing job, sell yourself, that kind of thing. And psychology is not about that. The discipline, it's all about reflection and all about how can I improve. So I think inherently with that comes a sense of kind of always questioning yourself a little bit. And that's cool because it encourages you to grow. But for some people, especially people that are a bit nervous or a bit anxious or are still finding their feet and maybe feel a little bit insecure about some things, and I definitely fall into this camp a bit, it can sometimes work against you and leave you feeling like you're never doing a good enough job. I think the thing that has really helped me navigate the discipline of self-reflection has been my supervisors. Particularly my supervisor this semester. She's been really attuned to the fact that I can put myself down a little bit or doubt myself kind of constantly in a way that's not always effective. She's been good at kind of steering me back and going, I like what you did here. You did a good job with this. It's always good to reflect on where you're going wrong and what you could do better, but it's just as important to reflect on what you did well. And if you struggle with noticing that, like I sometimes do, writing it down or having people help you remember or having things you can look back on and go, wow. And I think that's also kind of why recording the journey is a really cool thing to do. And you can do it in so many different ways, like keeping a diary or recording some of your progress in photos or recording voice notes or something for yourself to listen back to, but ways where you can kind of notice yourself making progress. It's so cool to look back on how far you've come sometimes and just really sit in that. And if you're studying psychology, it's a hard journey. Like, it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And it's not. So if you are studying, your undergrad or your honors year, or you've got into your masters, go back and think about how much progress you've made each semester, even if it's each week. The work that you're putting in now that you've got to kind of go back and celebrate and think, well, what did I do well in? If you're studying in this discipline, you've come a long way. That's enough from me for now. Fingers crossed tomorrow isn't too difficult. I'm going to keep you posted. We shall see. All right. Just arrived at university. The time is 7:50. I'm heading into the clinic to do a little bit of admin. All right, the time is now just past 9 a.m. So I'm heading towards class. Another day, another semester. I think most of this vlog is just going to be in this room because I really love it, that the vibe is really nice in here. It's all clean and got good lighting going on, and it smells like lavender now because I added some lavender oil to my lava rock diffuser, so it's a very zen sort of psychology space. Yeah, that was a really big day. Nice to be back in the course, nice to be back with everyone. Also just so much learning, which is good, but also tires the brain out a bit. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about this course, touch wood. I'm in a fortunate position where I've done so basically the course, I should mention what it is. It's basically psychological assessment, so looking at things like intelligence, doing cognitive testing, testing ADHD. That's what this short winter semester course is going to hone in on. And I'm lucky because during my 4+2 internship, I had a lot of exposure to doing the whisk and the waste. Like I used the practice kits. I did a couple of reports for each one on family members and friends. So I'm going to have to reach out to people again because in this course we have to film ourselves doing the whisk or the waste on someone. So I feel sorry for the people in my life. But yeah, I think this course is actually going to be quite fun because it'll involve doing something really practical. Anyway, if we go back to this, we're talking about people. This one I've got a lot to say, so let's talk about it. During your undergrad and your honours, your peers are your competitors. And one of the problems with this is I don't think it's conducive to the healthiest environment or the healthiest culture. And I can only speak from my experience. I don't know what it's like at other universities, like it could be a lot better. But from my experience, you didn't really make friends. I'll put it like that. So it was quite isolating. Something that really helped me during this time was to get really, really clear about what I cared about. Because like as humans, it's natural to compare ourselves to others and to compare our journey with other people. And if you can kind of get really clear about what's important to you and what you want to take a stand for, what you want to make your life about, it makes it that little bit easier when it comes to difficult things. I'll bring it back to a bit of an example with my own journey. I got to the end of my honours year and all my cohort, or a lot of my cohort, were wanting to go on and apply for a clinical master's. Some people wanted to go on and do a clinical PhD. But I knew within myself that journey just wasn't for me. I had a really clear sense that adventure was really important to me. And I wanted to have adventure without having the title of psychologist and kind of the weight and responsibility that comes with. At the time, I felt a bit pressured, and it was all positive pressure, but it felt heavy. You know, my mum worked as a clinical psychologist. You know, she really wanted me to join her in starting like a mother-daughter practice. And at the time, I had a really good job, and my boss was talking about maybe us doing something together with her business. And I'd even had my supervisor suggest that maybe I try out for a clinical master's / PhD, like that pathway. So I was thinking about all these different things, and I was so lucky because I was so clear on what I wanted and I wasn't going to let anything deter me from that. It's really, really important to work out what's important to you and let that guide you. And that comes from a place of figuring out your values and figuring out how you want to show up in the world and what you want to make your life about. So with this people quadrant, I think if we go back to kind of comparison, because that's something that comes up a lot, and that is also quite normal and natural to compare yourself, and amplified in a competitive environment can make you second guess yourself and think, am I actually smart enough to be in this course? Because such and such is doing amazing things. They're doing so much better than I am. And the way that I handled that as a young person was I came up with a mantra that I would just repeat over and over to myself whenever I caught myself comparing my life or how I was going at uni to someone else. I would just say to myself, stay in your own lane. And that became kind of like a chant that I would just say that would ground me to my own journey. Stay in your own lane. And I would kind of visualize like a swimming pool lane and me swimming towards the direction I wanted to go to. And that was the only thing in my vision. That was all I was focusing on. So stay in your own lane was the thing I repeated to myself a lot. Yeah, I think that also kind of comes down to you and the inner work, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. I definitely need to go to bed. My energy tank is nearly out, so I'm gonna go now. But I will see you tomorrow. Literally just come home. What a day. The clinic is very intense. This week feels like it's gone by like that, but it also feels like it's gone on and on and on. To kind of finish the spiel off about self-doubt in a profession that is very competitive to get into and very much involves being in your head, let's bring it all back to you and what you can kind of do to manage those moments where you think, am I an imposter? Like, do I actually have what it takes to be in this field? This is my take on it, and for the record, this isn't therapy, it's kind of just what's worked for me with managing this. And I always look at it as an ongoing process. I don't ever think I've gotten to the point where I feel like I'm exuding confidence. I think it's something that I'm just continuously trying to work on. If I bring back what Arena said, did you ever think that you weren't enough or that you weren't smart enough to do this? Yes, I did. I think you have to start with the assumption that your brain is on your side, and there's gonna be moments where you don't feel like it is. There's going to be times when your brain kind of wants to keep you safe and wants to protect you and wants to stop you from getting out of your comfort zone. And I think you just need to look at it as a teeny tiny part of yourself, but there's so many other parts of yourself that make up who you are. So that when you feel stuck, you can lean into those other parts a little bit more. The part of you that might be adventurous, or the part of you that might be creative or curious, or the part of you that is really striving to get somewhere, and that's really persistent with how difficult this journey can be. Even if you've got this little part of you that's like, I'm not good enough, or doubting yourself, try and lean into the other parts too, because I guarantee you the self-doubt part isn't what makes you you. So try not to identify with it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And where I'm at now on the journey, I can say that I no longer worry about not being the smartest, or maybe part of the journey with becoming a psychologist is going through the discomfort of doubting yourself or comparing yourself to others. It's such a human experience. There's this quote that really resonates with me about this, that kind of captures the imperfection of being human, but in a really nice, gentle way. And it's what I'm just always going back to in the back of my mind. And I remember listening to it from Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she says, the most peaceful people that I know are the people that have created enough internal space to be able to allow all the parts of themselves to coexist despite the contradictions. So they have room for their creativity, and they also have room for their fear. They have room for their dignity, and they also have room for their shame. They have room for all the parts of themselves that are glorious and divine and wonderful, and they have room for all the parts of themselves that are petty and jealous and ridiculous. They have this big auditorium of a landscape inside themselves, and they don't kick any parts out because you can't. So I guess that's kind of how I've tried to get past it, by just acknowledging that it's gonna happen and trying to allow space for that. I can't say that I am the most peaceful person in the world, but I can say that developing that kind of mindset over the course of my studies and my career path has definitely led to me accepting myself a lot more. I hope that I've kind of summed up these 3 areas. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Tomorrow is the end of the week. Let's get through this. Surprise, it's Saturday. Didn't film anything on Friday. Went to uni at 7:30 in the morning, got back at about 7 o'clock at night. It was just the biggest day ever. So I hope you got something out of this week's vlog. Kind of more of almost like a podcast, a video cast, if you will. I hope you're enjoying this new style, and thanks so much for all your feedback. It really helps. And yeah, I'm gonna finish off by saying something else that's just kind of come to mind. When you're learning how to do something, like if you're trying to exercise your body and get into exercise, it's normal to feel weak, and it's normal to come out of a workout just feeling so sore and so tired, maybe even feeling like you're never going to get strong. Progress is slow, and it takes a long time to see results. You just gotta kind of remember that at the start and even in the middle, it's gonna be normal to feel like you're not good enough or you're not smart enough. That's actually what happens, because learning requires you to fail, and it requires you to struggle, and it requires you to be a beginner at something and to find something hard, and maybe you'll find it hard for a while. And that's just how learning works. So you've just got to accept that and be really kind to yourself, even though that is so hard to do. Alright, I'm officially signing off now. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you in the next vlog. Bye!